Hi, I am Mila, and I have a talent, however, as well as each of you. And I think it is very important because it is thanks to that I became an agent of the SCP Foundation. This is not some kind of dream and fiction. This is my real profession, and soon you will find out about my talent and why I'm not hiding information about myself. Although all of this is very closely related. Let's remember what girls from about 2 to 9 years old usually do. That's right, they play with dolls, cook toy food, and of course try to master the art of makeup, harassing tons of mom's cosmetics, or again, toy cosmetics if they're lucky. So, of all of the above, I was only interested in cosmetics, and from the very beginning, it was clear to my parents that my motor skills clearly did not correspond to the age of 3 or 4 years because I was able to do makeup pretty well. Well, just like a makeup course's student. And if in childhood my inclination delighted everyone, then later it began to shock. And all because I started doing just awesome face paint. With its help, I could easily make myself look like any celebrity or someone familiar, and I got almost 100% similarity. But the main thing is that I didn't learn how to do it. Once in the ninth grade, my best friend Nina offered me a bet. I had to put on makeup to be like her and come to school like that. And if no one suspected anything, then I would win and she would fulfill my every wish. But if I got busted, then alas, that task became the first important and responsible one for me, so that time I approached the preparation of the makeup especially carefully, and it took me as long as 8 hours. I even had to stay up all night and then go to school in the morning. To be honest, due to lack of sleep, I was on the verge of failure, and our classmates kept asking me, that is her, if everything was all right and if something had happened to me. But 6 lessons flew by unnoticed, and the victory was mine. I did it. In general, the most important thing in that victory for me was that I, first of all, proved to myself how cool I really am and the level of my abilities. Then I no longer had any doubts about what I would connect my future life with and where I would go to study after school. But at that time, I didn't even realize that there was another use for my talent. After winning the bet, I stopped being shy about my talent and started using it everywhere and quite often. I even started an account on TikTok where I demonstrated my wonderful transformations. The audience was just delighted, and I quickly gathered 100,000 fans. Once, when I was walking down the street, a strange girl of about 20 years old in black sunglasses approached me. She did not call me by name, but she addressed me as my subscribers in TikTok address me, that is, by my nickname. It was very strange because in real life, no one ever called me that. Then the girl asked me to get into a minibus parked next to her to talk. I felt uncomfortable with such an offer, and then the girl lowered her glasses a little and looked me straight in the eyes. I don't know if it was hypnosis or just a coincidence, but I dutifully followed her. Have you already guessed what our conversation was about? That's right, it was on that day that I became a recruited agent of the SCP Foundation, and I was chosen precisely because of my talent to make myself look like anyone. And my main task was to steal and fraudulently obtain certain objects, pretending to be other people. The first object that I had to deliver to the Foundation was the energetic dog SCP-4062, which at that time was located overseas. I had to carry out the flight using forged documents, making up a wrinkled old woman who had previously been an agent of the Foundation, like me, but died while completing the next task. Arriving at the place, I successfully got the object. The dog was obscenely cute and smart. I even thought, what if it became mine? But I am an agent of the Foundation and I must not allow such thoughts. Our plane successfully flew back, and in my heart I began to celebrate the successful completion of the task. But as it turned out, it was very early to be happy because the most interesting things were still ahead. Around the middle of our flight, the plane began to shake, and the pilot reported that we had a depressurization and ordered everyone to urgently buckle up and put on oxygen masks. Besides, he warned that the landing would be quick and hard and that it would not be very pleasant. Everything was in a fog, or rather, the plane's cabin was in a fog for reasons I did not understand. I did not even have time to get scared and automatically put on a mask as my neighbor did, and only then was I seized by horror. No one except the foundation staff knew where I was. I told my parents that I went camping with a youth club, and my friends that my parents and I flew away for a couple of days. And here I am in the form of an old woman who is no longer alive with her documents on a plane that is about to crash. That is, if this is the end, then it is very sad, and my parents may never know where I disappeared to. The landing was really very hard. Many passengers were bleeding from the nose and ears. There were severe bruises and even fractures, but it seemed that everyone survived. My nose also started bleeding, and my makeup flaked. I was on the verge of exposure and serious problems with the law. I needed to spruce myself up as soon as possible, pick up the object, and hand it over to the Foundation. However, when they began to evacuate all the passengers from the aircraft cabin and everyone started looking at me very strangely, I realized that my affairs were bad and I needed to save myself first. But when I came to passport control, my acting skills came in handy and I played a real performance there. I shouted that I felt very bad and I needed to get out into fresh air as soon as possible. I fanned my face and sighed loudly. Of course, I was allowed to pass without waiting in line, and as soon as the passport control was passed, I was told that I could pick up my dog. At that moment, I was so happy that I accidentally wiped one of my painted eyebrows with my hand. You should have seen the faces of those around me at that moment. But I got the dog out of turn and my mission was completed, so I left the airport building and got into the car waiting for the dog and me. When we arrived at the Foundation, I learned from the chief that something terrible had happened during the flight and we actually nearly crashed. It turned out that an employee of a competing organization represented by a flight attendant was on board with us. At first, he tried to poison me, but since I refused to eat, he had to go to plan B. He carried an aquarium with water to the dog and placed it in it. It seemed that his goal was to destroy me at any cost, even at the cost of his own life and the lives of dozens of other passengers. The dog began to shake, the water from the aquarium began to evaporate, creating an excessive amount of steam, and this almost led us to disaster. But thanks to the professionalism of the pilots, the worst was avoided. It turns out that I thought that I might die from a plane crash, but the danger was even closer, where I did not expect to see it at